Before Goku Black and every other emo evil Goku that fans whipped up, the first evil Goku that came about was in the third Z movie, Doragon Boru Zeto Chikyu Marugoto Chokusen. I think I nailed that. Or a decisive battle for Earth. Or, as we know in the dub, the Tree of Might. I mean, I guess there was that weird thing Popo made. Ugh. I've always found Turles to be very interesting. Despite clearly being the movie's parallel to Saiyan Arc Vegeta and looking like Goku, he manages to stand on his own as a pretty unique character. Like with my Mira video, I found that putting together his story across different media almost paints a journey. While most of these interpretations I'll talk about aren't connected, in a meta sense, beyond their individual stories, it does paint a journey of a Saiyan who went from kind of a slimy snake oil salesman to a lost soul trying to find out what he's really fighting for. Basically, we're gonna break down the lore and mostly what I find fascinating about Turles. If you like this type of video and you want me to do this with another Z movie character, let me know down below. If that sounds cool, let's just get into it. As we know, Turles is born a low-class Saiyan. But there are only about 10 mid-class Saiyans in total, and the royal family are the only elites. So therefore, being a low class doesn't exactly nail down how strong a Saiyan truly is. Raditz, despite a battle power at least 5 times smaller than Nappa's, was considered an upper level warrior. I mean, Bardock had a power level of like 10,000, surpassing Nappa even in the Bald Saiyan's highest estimates. Well, basically, while we don't know his true power level before the whole fruit business, we are told in the supplemental Daizenshu that he is considered a first-rate warrior, so I see him in the same light as Raditz. We also know, through more information provided in this book, that when Goku was born, Turles was already a first-rate warrior, so he must be much older than the Saiyan raised on Earth. As Goku is 24 in this movie, well, 25 if you count him being dead on King Kai's, and we assume Turles wasn't a first-rate warrior at like the age of 5 or younger, the Saiyan could be well into his 30s and 40s by the time he meets Goku. Also, no, he's not Goku's brother, as some incorrect information would have you believe. He explains the reason they look alike is that among low-class Saiyans, there are only a few body types, or types of faces. It's a silly bit of justification the movie gives for why he looks just like Goku, a rule Toriyama and Toyotaro certainly don't stick to for low-class Saiyans in the future. The point is that Turles is a reflection of Goku, one that Kakarot could have become in another life. But we'll get into that later. Character designer for the movie, Minoru Maeda, goes into the origins of Turles' design. Since Turles was supposed to be Goku's lookalike, it's basically Goku drawn as is. However, I gave him a cruel expression and a scouter, and his build has been made a little bit bulkier as well. His skin color is different, and more than anything else, his costume is completely different, so there was no need to go and deliberately make him seem like an imposter. Basically, the design reflects that while similar to Goku, in both design and personality, he is more than just an evil Goku. After the destruction of planet Vegeta, having been conveniently off-world at the time, he deserted the Frieza Force and wandered the universe alone, seeking to cause trouble wherever he went. What he spent his time doing, one could only guess, but it almost certainly was a life of sadism and vices, giving in to his most base pleasures. Somehow, though, he would stumble upon the Tree of Might, also known as the Shinseiju or Divine Spiritual Tree. Apparently, producer Morishita Kozo received an Asian ginseng once as a souvenir, hearing the tale that it would suck up the field's nourishment to grow larger. Therein, he found the basis for the Shinseiju in the movie. In the film itself, it's an incomprehensibly large tree that's grown to provide fruits to the gods, and therefore it should not be in the hands of mortals like Turles. How it fell into the mortal world is anyone's guess, probably Beerus the Supreme Kai being neglectful once again. But Turles saw this as almost a sign from heaven, that it would lift someone up so far down on the food chain of the universe to become its very conqueror. His path forward was now clear. He would use this as a tool to gain strength and one day overthrow those who sat at the top. He began searching the cosmos for the discarded men of society in order to form his gang. The recruitment order is uncertain, but we know he gathers quite the assortment of criminals for his cause. Their backstories were revealed in the 1990 book Akira Toriyama, The World Anime Special. As Turles attacked the planet Kobacha, a prince from the ruling kingdom named Dais led an army against him. Despite losing against the Saiyan bandit, Dais' bravery was commended, and so he was invited to work for him. Kakao, who was long ago converted into a cyborg to fight an interstellar war, became a bounty hunter, and one day volunteered to become part of the crew. Amand was a criminal who rampaged across the galaxy, but was arrested by space police and confined to a prison on planet Nuts. Today, we can recontextualize that to mean he was caught by the Galactic Patrol. Turles would attack the planet, and Amand, in the confusion, would find and join the Saiyans' band of criminals. As they used the Tree of Might across many worlds, they learned the overgrown bonsai tree contained potent life force, so potent it could revive the dead. They experimented this theory by reviving fossils of the long-extinct Beans race, being two warriors named Razin and Lakase. With all of them together, they formed the Turles Crusher Corps. The supplemental Daizenshuu also brings up that Turles somehow became aware of Goku's presence on Earth before the movie, suggesting he held interest in the famously brave Bardock and his son Kakarot. And no, it's not because he's Bardock's son, so let's just establish a basis for the power levels in this movie. Considering the Z fighters know what Saiyans are, and Goku knows Kaioken and Spirit Bomb, this has to take place after the Saiyan invasion. Yet all of them seem to live through their battles with Nappa and Vegeta, and are able to participate in the events of this movie. A pamphlet for the movie provided power levels of multiple characters up to this point, even from the previous two movies and arcs. While the accuracy definitely differs from the actual series for some characters, what is important is how strong the characters for this movie are stated to be. The power levels for Turles' men goes as follows. Dais at 8,400, Kakao at 13,000, Razin at 8,000, Lakase at 7,600, and Amon at 9,100. This means most are above Nappa's highball power level, but they were more than likely much weaker before eating the fruits they collected throughout their journey. This includes Turles, who stands at 19,000 at the start, being slightly above Saiyan Saga Vegeta's 18,000. Funny enough, Piccolo in this movie has reached a level of 18,000, meaning his fight against Turles is how the Goku lookalike versus Saiyan Saga Vegeta would probably go.
I've eaten so much fruit of the Tree of Might. Even a super elite can't touch me. Too bad for you.
Goku's power level of 30,000 frightens Turles enough to consume a singular fruit, which buffs him to a point that even Kaioken times 10 can't defeat him. That means Turles had to reach at least over 300,000 in battle power, so eating that fruit was at minimum a near 16 times increase in power. It was likely much higher since he dominated a 30,000 power Kaioken times 10, but I'm just lowballing him for the sake of it. So divide Turles' original power by about 16 times, and you can see that he may have been just under Raditz before eating a single fruit. That would line up with my belief that he and Raditz had similar power growing up. However, I highly doubt he only ate one fruit since starting his journey of harvesting planet energy. So that means either the Tree of Might's increase in power provided by Earth is much stronger than on other planets, the fruits get progressively stronger after each planet, or it's just plot based and we're thinking too much about it. Now, let's talk about his character journey through his debut story. While his goal is obviously to plant another seed of might in order to gain immense power, he also clearly has a vested interest in the Saiyans living here. He tries convincing both Gohan and Goku into joining him, which plays a big part of his character in future material.
Together we would be the strongest force in the universe!
I don't like the way you look.
In this case though, it seems like he was making a special exception for Gohan, as he could tell the boy held great potential. He also seems to take great pride in the Saiyans' reputation as the mightiest warriors in the universe, at least if the Frieza Force Elite aren't taken into account. He displayed a similar hatred of sentimentality like the other Saiyan warriors, not showing any care for the deaths of his men and scoffing at the Earth-raised Saiyan softness. However, this pride doesn't seem to extend into how he fights, as he is a dirty fighter willing to do whatever it takes to win, similar to Raditz or Namek Vegeta. At the end of the day, he resorts to consuming fruit for strength rather than fight with his own power. This cowardly bandit is meant to be a mirror to Goku, to show exactly what kind of man he could have been had he not had the life of love, nurture, and happiness he experienced on Earth. At the end, Turles almost wins after absorbing pretty much all of the energy of Earth into the tree, yet the tree itself would be his undoing, as Goku would use that same stolen energy to power the Spirit Bomb and disintegrate the villain once and for all. But the story of Turles is far from over. He gets brought back in a few stories that I think expand well upon the foundation this movie laid out. Starting off is kind of a curious case, being the Ghost Warrior in league with Dr. Raichi in plan to eradicate the Saiyans. Here, he faces the Z-Fighters alongside Slug, Frieza, and Cooler. They are all Ghost Warriors created from their real counterparts' grudges against the Z-Fighters, specifically the Saiyans. In the original OVA, Turles claims his grudge against the Saiyans is greater than even the likes of Frieza. Now, my first thought was, this is just some fake version created by a salty Sufurian doctor who hates the Saiyans, so surely this isn't true. But while this hatred is exaggerated for sure, there is something to be said that he's a Ghost Warrior at all. Raditz and Nappa aren't here despite their beef with Goku, Gohan, and Vegeta, and the Ghost Warriors are created by harnessing the lingering grudge of those who fell against the Saiyans and amplifying that hatred. So this means Turles, uniquely from Raditz or Nappa, held a grudge against Goku for the fact that a fellow Saiyan ended his life. There's just something to be said about that is all I'm saying. Related to this OVA, Turles makes it clear in Raging Blast 2 that he's completely ignorant of the Super Saiyan transformation. Whether that means he doesn't believe in the myth or hasn't heard about it is unclear, but other versions of him later have some input on Super Saiyans.
Kakarot? What is this?
Now, about Super Saiyans.
What's up, kid? Dye your hair?
I'm a Super Saiyan!
Up next, we got Xenoverse 2, the game that actually got me paying attention to Turles as a character all the way back in 2016. We see him teaming up with Toa and Mira as an agent to corrupt time and gather energy for the demons, though only to further his own goals. Toa provides him with fruit from the Tree of Might enhanced with Demon Realm magic to make the effects even stronger.
Think of me as an ally. I've brought a gift.
Stop Turles! He's giving them fruit from the Tree of Might!
He's paired with Slug as a sort of parallel to the Goku and Piccolo duo in early Z, making them a deadly pair for Namek Arc Z fighters to face. Both have their desire to rule the universe and aren't afraid to use each other as a means to an end. Turles both tries to worm his way into your good side along with Slugs, always disappointed when his prey don't take the bait.
Don't be so cold, Slug. Wanderers like us should stick together.
If you swear to become my loyal servant, I might consider it.
I, politely refuse.
Hark! Well, we will never get along anyway.
He impedes the heroes on many occasions in order to disrupt the flow of history, but it's revealed his real priority is the Namekian Dragon Balls.
In but a very short time, the Dragon Balls will grant me eternal life. If I eat enough fruit from the Tree of Might, even Frieza and Mira with all their power won't be able to stop me.
If he becomes immortal, then he no longer would have to slither around in the shadows like the little snake he is.
What's happening? I feel a surge of pure dark energy.
This is Toa's doing. She must have tainted the fruit somehow.
It looks like my experiment was a success.
Despite being tricked by Toa though, he believes with the power gained he will be able to destroy the demonic couple. At the end of the day, he and Slug were merely the testing grounds for the supervillain power-up she'd come to abuse later, and what her son would take even farther. I'm pretty sure him and Slug bit the dust here, potentially this Turles that shows up in future Trunks' timeline could be the same Turles. Although, when he says he can finally take his revenge, does he mean Goku for the events of the Z movie, or on the Time Patrol for earlier in the story? Regardless, he gets beaten back and never seen again. Before we move on though, there is another aspect of Turles in this game worth talking about for the video, that being Mentor Turles. I won't go into as much detail as I did for my All Mentors Explained video, but here are the important things to take away. He hangs around the mountain connected to the Time Nest, the highest point you can find a mentor in the game. Probably a way for him to observe the whole city and devise a way to conquer this hub of time travelers. As we come to expect, he promises you a spot on the Crusher Core with all the pleasures of a marauding life. His goal is to eliminate the Frieza family, maybe even the whole Frieza race, and create a new Saiyan empire where he rules as their new king. Once again, despite lacking the same kind of pride you'd find in Vegeta, he clearly has some respect for the warrior race and what it means to be a Saiyan, something expanded upon in our next section. In Dragon Ball Legends, Shallot encounters the pirate when the evil Saiyan and some Frieza soldiers kidnap Bulma for a nefarious plot. Shallot refuses to join Turles despite his requests, yet doesn't stand a chance against the monster. Frieza himself finds Shallot and works out a deal to investigate this situation together, as Turles has apparently swayed the tyrant's men to his side with an imposter Frieza. He's also aware his army has been growing stronger thanks to some unknown power boosting method. They would eventually find Cabba's masters Nappa and Vegeta, who assist them going forward. As they travel, they come across Zarbon and Dodoria, who are working for the false Frieza. Once they hear the false Frieza's voice, it sounds nearly identical, making it understandable how his army was tricked. The two then attack Frieza, believing the real Emperor wouldn't be working alongside Saiyans. But before they are killed for their insolence, Turles saves them. The Ginyu Force then join Shallot's group, and after some training, head to find the fake Emperor. The group would face the brunt of the Frieza Force alongside mass-produced units of Android 19. As Shallot's group brute forces their way through, and seeing the odds are not in their favor, Turles relays that his Frieza would like to talk face to face. The would-be Frieza turns out to actually be Frost, still bitter about the Tournament of Power, and taking it out on a Frieza who doesn't even know who he is. It seems these two rats are peas in a pod. While Turles enjoys fighting his fellow Saiyans, he sees the writing on the wall and surrenders. Frost starts abusing the fruit of the Tree of Might to give himself an advantage, but it turns out these are experimental fruits that come with drawbacks the original fruits do not have. They start to break down Frost's body, leaving him weak enough to be defeated by Frieza. Planning on using these fruits for himself, and Turles now down a partner, they strike the same deal he had with Frost. Help their mysterious benefactor Dr. Gero with gathering genes for his special project, and he will supply them with more artificial fruit of the Tree of Might. And so, a deadly alliance is formed. Shallot and the gang are forced to fight the onslaught of once tenuous allies turned enemies, with Shallot finding Bulma and destroying the Mad Doctor. Turles distracts them as his soldiers gather samples of DNA from the battle and send more fruit-empowered men after the Saiyans. Nappa sacrifices himself, taking the Ginyu Force along with him, so that Shallot can back up Vegeta against Frieza. As the Saiyan duo runs out of Senzus to abuse their Zenkais, Vegeta saves Shallot's life with the last one and protects him from a large blast from the Tyrant. He tells Shallot to take on true Saiyan pride, one untainted by the culture formed under Frieza's influence. This, along with Frieza mocking the prince's death, causes Shallot to become a Super Saiyan. The Mad Tyrant in desperation uses the experimental fruit of the Tree of Might, only to fall victim to the same effects as Frost did once the battle drags on for too long. Shallot obliterates him, with Turles coming to investigate and peck at the weakened Saiyan like a vulture. He believed the Super Saiyan was a simple myth, and is astonished to see one in person. Once Shallot refuses to join him again though, he brings out a real fruit from the Tree of Might, one that lacks any downsides. Gero then arrives, revealing he wasn't actually destroyed as he has countless copies of his Android 20 body. Once this copy and more Frieza soldiers are dealt with, Turles explains his real endgame plan. He wishes to grant what he believes is the wish of the Saiyan race, to create a world full of betrayal, deception, and conflict. A world that can only be described as pure chaos and never-ending battle. Shallot calls him out as a fraud though, saying he has strayed far from what it means to be a true Saiyan.
There's no point in faking your strength. If you don't learn to face your weaknesses head on, you'll never get stronger.
After being pushed back and forced to reflect, Turles is riddled with self-doubt, questioning if he even knows what he's fighting for anymore. This cloud of judgment is then cleared away by the mastermind of the time-space tournament, taking his mind over with Dark Ki. After not being able to defeat Shallot even with all of that, Turles accepts defeat, happy he got to enjoy a fight like a true Saiyan. After giving Goku some crucial information, he takes off, saying he'll continue to do as he pleases. And that's where I'm going to stop talking about Legends. Turles probably shows up again after this, but I didn't see him anywhere in like the story mode stuff I skimmed through. I can't even find the full story on a Google search. And I'm not gonna download the game again, dude. You think free storage grows on trees? Nuh-uh, no way. Regardless, what we've seen so far already paints a pretty good picture to the character arc of Turles. A Saiyan who seeks to rise further up the power ladder and sow chaos into the universe to satisfy a void in his heart. But this hole within him can only be filled by embracing the core of what it truly means to be a Saiyan. I feel I can cement this idea with the final story to talk about, Super Dragon Ball Heroes. The previous couple of stories we talked about were vague on if their Turleses experienced the events of the Tree of Might movie beforehand, but in the Big Bang mission arc of Super Dragon Ball Heroes, we see a Turles saved by the demonic scientist Fu just before he died to the Spirit Bomb. And just like before, he is forced under the service of a larger power, this time the son of Toa, to aid their plan. Always a captive to someone else's agenda. Knowing he would have been killed without the second chance, he takes his time preparing to fight Goku one day by gorging on the fruit of the Tree of Might in order to reach the level of the gods. Finally obtaining the power he desires since discovering this tree decades ago. In the manga, he's a match for post-Tournament of Power Super Saiyan God Goku, before the Universe Tree boosts him to Super Saiyan Blue levels. In the anime, he can fight off against Super Saiyan Blue Goku off the bat. Mind you, this Goku has already gone through the Prison Planet saga and Universal Conflict saga where he fought even more foes since Jiren and had training from the Grand Priest himself. Later on, in the pseudo-universe created by the Crimson Masked Saiyan, Vegeta, the evil Saiyan Cumber, and Turles engage in a three-way confrontation. Cumber, an ancient legendary evil Saiyan, probably faced the ancient good Saiyans, including Yamoshi, and most likely prevailed. He represents the origin of the modern-day Saiyans, the foundation lathered with corruption. Cumber believes a Saiyan's pride is seeped in evil, and so cruelty and villainy is their true essence. Turles couldn't agree more, and as he envelops his heart with evil while consuming another fruit, he matches Cumber with his own evil Saiyan form.
Feasting on the Tree of Might's fruit has given me powers beyond imagination.
As Vegeta also gets infected with the power though, he reflects upon his past, realizing these guys are no different than he was at his lowest moments. He's the prince of their people and once embodied their worst traits. However, Vegeta rejects this evil power, exclaiming Saiyan pride is simply to live for battle, surpass your foes, and break your limits. He then mocks Turles as a disgrace of a Saiyan, shattering the villain's weak sense of pride. After being clobbered into the ground, Turles believes this is his limit, and he'll never escape being anything more than a low-class Saiyan. However, Vegeta imparts onto him one final lesson, that if he's so mad at Vegeta and himself, then he should get stronger for the sake of his own pride. But soon after, as the Crimson Masked Saiyan defeats Hearts and Vegeta and is about to finish off Goku, Turles distracts him. Knowing he stands no chance, he throws Vegeta the Dragon Ball he was holding onto, and accepts his death with a smile. In the following arc though, this Turles returns with a halo over his head to fight in the tournament to decide the one true timeline. Remember earlier when I said that he reminded me of Raditz? No, it's not because they're brothers! It's because Raditz is almost exactly the same kind of character as Turles. He brags about the pride and power of the Saiyans, yet resorts to cheap tricks and tactics to gain the upper hand. And here, Raditz faces off against Turles as a sort of mirror reflection of who he once was back in the Tree of Might movie. just as he was a reflection of what Goku could have been. Raditz tries to convince Turles to join him, like Turles has done to so many others, but he declines the offer. As Raditz goes Super Saiyan 3, they engage in a heavy brawl. The Golden Warrior remarks that Turles' overconfidence will be his undoing, but Turles replies that this pride is what makes him a Saiyan, showing that he took Vegeta's lesson to heart. He then faces off against Vegeta as the timelines are being whittled down to almost one left. Vegeta wonders who between them will be erased, but Turles says it doesn't matter. Until one of them falls, they will fight each other as Saiyans, gaining the prince's respect. As Demigra invades the tournament, one of his minions, a corrupted Majin Buu, interrupts their battle. As Vegeta swiftly handles him, he's sent away, much to Turles' confusion. Afterwards, we don't see Turles anymore in the series, but that's about all we need. I could have talked about Zeno Turles, but he's a separate guy with not much going on, like most of the Dark Dragon Ball possessed characters. I guess he gets a cool edgy form, though that's pretty neato. And so that's the story of Turles. As I said, while these stories are fundamentally separate, just like my Mira video, you can gradually experience a meta story being woven together as you see what the writers figure out where they can take the character. From wandering space pirate who was meant to be nothing more than an evil reflection of Goku, to a Saiyan who lost what it means to be a Saiyan. He believed the Saiyan way of life was nothing more than death and destruction, crushing the weak underfoot. These are the values the Saiyans held onto since eliminating Yamoshi and the other good Saiyans 1,000 years ago. Frieza only amplified this mindset, as his chokehold on the warrior race proved that domination was the only way to survive in this cruel universe. With the Tree of Might though, he gained power a low-class Saiyan could only dream of, surpassing even the prince of his people. But it was all superficial, empty. Nothing he did could make him feel like anything more than a weakling at heart. But through his fight with Vegeta, the Saiyan that lived the life of evil and reformed, he gains the pride of his ancestors' enemies. He doesn't become a good guy, obviously, but he gains their outlook on strength. The Saiyans are more than bloodthirsty bandits. They are warriors of combat, of never-ending evolution. Honestly, I always say it's weird that the guy with Goku's hair never gets Super Saiyan forms, despite it being the easiest thing to design ever. But it's kind of appropriate that the Saiyan who barely knew what he was fighting for never had the conviction or resolve to trigger the transformation. Despite his reverence for his people and their culture, he could never attain the form talked of in legends. He ended up having to settle for the corrupted rot of his ancestors, even though Cumber himself could even go Super Saiyan 3. Maybe, as an epilogue to this meta journey, a game in the future will give him another chance.